Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Ross here, and today's video is going to be a tutorial on the Air Force and everything to do with air power, fighters, bombers, and there's going to be a lot of information I'm going to try to put into this video, and I'm going to be bound to miss something because this is a very technical aspect of the game. There's a lot of hidden debuffs and also buffs, but I'm going to try to go over a lot of different things, so let's get to it and dive into it. With anything that is in this game, there's more than likely a research that ties directly into it. And so just with your Air Force, there's aircraft that you can research. Close air support that does damage to units in battles, fighters that kills off other planes in the sector, naval bombers that goes after ships and ports. Then you have tactical bombers and strategic bombers, and also heavy fighters. Heavy fighters have an added buff against bombers to take them down, but also a debuff against smaller aircraft. Tactical bombers can do strategic bombing, but also they can bomb units and ships. Strategic bombers can only bomb strategic targets such as ports, airports, anti-aircraft batteries, and things of that nature. But also strategic bombers are very tough. If you send just a couple fighters against a strategic bomber, guess what? The strategic bomber is going to win and you're going to lose a lot of fighters. Later on in tech, you can get different kinds of jets as well. The jet engines, you have to go into engineering and research it, but once you research it, you will unlock jets. Now, the jets are not upgradable units, meaning that it will not upgrade all your TA-152 units to the Messerschmitt 262. You have to make brand new fighter units of the 262 and either just stop using the 152 or stop producing them, and when they all get killed off, then you don't have any more. Also, there is all these little aircraft carrier tabs. This is so you can get the naval version of that. Now, these are all like 71 days in very small numbers to get the other naval variant of this. Now, that's not saying that you can't just use the naval variant. You can use the naval variants on land, but these are specifically designed to go on the aircraft carriers. The next subject is your air doctrine. You have strategic destruction, which is typically where the United States goes down. You have the battlefield support, which is typical with the Germans in line that they go down. And then you have operational integrity, which is a little bit more designed for maybe Russia, but also can kind of go into different American and German tactics. Now, none of these trees are more overpowered than the other one, in my opinion. They both have their pros and cons. It really just depends on what you want to do specifically. Like this one has a naval strike tactics very early on, which is very good for carrier task force. And this tree has very early on direct ground support, which is good for the Stukas for the Germans. So just pick whatever you want. It's not going to really affect your end game. It's just whatever you want to see, then go down that tree. Getting onto the map, we can see that there's a whole bunch of fighters right here, but we just see the infographic or just the models of the aircraft flying around right now. How to get to that, we need to either press the button down here, the strategic air map, or use key F3, and then we can see a whole bunch of stuff that pops up, and a lot of stuff is in red right now. And the reason being is we do not have air superiority here. Another reason that we can tell that we do not have air superiority is underneath the theater, we can see that there's a whole bunch of warning messages. Some are for supply, but right here it says we have enemy air superiority in these sectors, and it takes you directly to them so you can hopefully deploy aircraft. Now, when you get into deploying aircraft, there's a couple things that you have to take into account. One is the range to the target that you want to actually cover, and two is how much aircraft that the airport can hold. This is an airport that can hold 1,800 aircraft. If you go over this number, you will have a negative debuff to your mission effectiveness for any aircraft that is parked at that base location. So for this reason, I think that the best overall unit or squadron size is 200. And how we can do that is we can move over one by just clicking, or we can hold down shift and click and move 200. Now this is a fighter unit now of 200 fighters, and we're going to hit OK, and that's going to deploy them from our main base, which is in Germany, over to here. And we can just do this with any airport that we want. Like this one has too many fighters, so we need to move to 200 of these, maybe somewhere else. We can move 200 over there, and this one seems a little bit overstocked as well. So you need to take that into account. When that number goes too high, we need to move those aircraft into other air bases to make sure that they're mission effective. Now, another thing that you want to do is make sure that you have aircraft of all kinds. So we deployed 200 of fighter 1s. We're going to deploy some fighter 2s over here, and we're going to try to deploy as many aircraft in this location, even bombers, because bombers are going to help out with the taking down aircraft as well, in the sense that other aircraft are going to target the bombers, and then your aircraft can then target them. If that kind of makes sense to you, is we're trying to make sure that we have a wealth of aircraft in all the areas so that we can give our troops the best cover, but also give our fighters the best chance of killing off the other guys. Now, a couple things that you want to take note once you have these deployed is you can deploy aces as well. This is a click to select the ace pilot, this little spade right here. All you do is you just click on it and then find one that is not assigned. So we have some guys that are KIA as well, so they'll even stay there and say, hey, you lost these guys. But you can see right here, the bonuses can be pretty extreme. 5% naval targeting, agility 5%, which is massive. This one right here, naval targeting is 15% here. This guy is for fighters. Air attack by 10%, max air speed by 8%. So that's really good to have those aces assigned. So you'll have these ace messages pop up saying that you got an ace. Make sure that you assign them to the right unit. Now you can only assign them to the right unit anyway, which means that you can only assign them to units that actually take that kind of pilot. So fighters go to fighter units, bombers go to bomber units. When we click on a sector, we can pull up a whole bunch of different things. We can see how many active fighters that we have in the region. We can also see how many active enemy fighters they have. Now, your aircraft work on rotations. They can do about 2 to 3 missions a day, but they can only go out for as max, which is I think like 17 hours. Now, this is getting very detailed, but you can see that there's these missions are executed day and night. You can select whether it only is during the day or they're going day and night. Now, if you do day and night, they'll go out the most, but also you'll have the most accident rating, meaning that there's an accident dice roll in the background of about 2%, I heard, is that for every single time they do a mission, it's a 2% on takeoff and 2% on landing. So you have a good chance that you're going to lose some aircraft just by accidents. And that goes dramatically up if there's storms. As you can see right here, the weather right now is weather modifiers, air detection, air accident chance by 30%, and air mission effectiveness by negative 30%. So it's kind of good to try to pay attention to this weather. And so what we can do is we can just select all our bombers and fighters right here, and we're like, hey, we don't want you there because that's a little bit, that's a little bit too dangerous right here. Now we can move them over to the weather modifier, which is clear, and hopefully they can have a little more success. Now this button right here shows that we have, or bar shows that we have 1,200 versus 1,100 aircraft, but also we can assign different things. Like we have other aircraft right here that are assigned, and once we click on the missions, we're gonna see that their numbers are actually gonna go up. So now we have 1,600 enemy fighters compared to 1,100. Now you can use this assign all, or we can shift click, which will shift click, will add 4 new air wings to this area. And this is from anything that's in range. So even if it can't effectively cover the entire area, we'll see a little yellow right here, mission effectiveness by 87%. But we can at least get some fighters in there to hopefully take down some of these fighters and bombers, so then we don't have to deal with them at a later point. Now, once you first deploy a aircraft, it's going to have normal not low operations, but a no retreat, meaning that they'll just keep on flying no matter how many aircraft get shut down, which in my opinion is not very good. You can just go to normal operations and they'll fly missions until they're 25% strength, meaning that if you have a unit of 200, they'll go down to, I think, 50. So that's pretty good in my opinion. You want to have the numbers for each squadron because there's all these hidden dice rolls that play in the background. And if you have very small units, a unit that's, let's say, gets deployed as 100 against your fighters of 50, even if you have a whole bunch of units of 50, the unit of 100 is going to beat the unit of 50. So I like the 200 rule because also the airports, they only work on factors of 2. So it's 200, 400, 800, it's not anything like 1500 or 100 airport size. So keeping the 200 size, it's very good number. And if you go into more advanced settings, then yes, you can get into a, maybe that, tactical bomber should have different size than a fighter unit or a close air support. But for just a novice, 200 is pretty good. Also, you can do low intensity, but I don't like low intensity missions. We want to actually kill some aircraft. After some time's gone away in the sector, we can see about how our aircraft have performed. We can see that we took some casualties, as well as the enemy bombers have taken casualties. Also, that we have now better air superiority in this region. Now, to see exactly how we do, we can click up here, which says Details, and we'll click on Details, and then we'll highlight. We'll click on our fighter losses, so it says that we've lost 278. Then we can click on enemy fighters and enemy bombers. So we can see that, you know, our losses comparative to how many aircraft that we're taking down is very good. Also, we can see this final number right here, enemy bombers disrupted. So even if they're on a bombing mission and we send fighters after them, if it disrupts them from bombing, that means they don't get to bomb us, which is, you know, good for us. Now, the issue with air superiority is that we're going to be playing this game back and forth because we really do not have enough force to right now to, you know, go after 1,000 here and 500 here. We want to severely outnumber them as best we can. Now, until we get more fighters, that's not going to happen right now. And we can try to deploy some other things, but, you know, we really don't have any fighters right here. We have naval bombers, we have intra-war bombers, we got tactical bombers, we have close air support. So right now we're a little light on the fighter aspect. We can deploy some of these intra-war fighters maybe. You can deploy fighters together. So like, even though these are all different fighter types, all these intra-war fighters, we can deploy these, and this is a unit of 107 right now, and now of 109, and it's all different fighters. Now, eventually, this will be upgraded to whatever your top aircraft is. So you can deploy that, and it's a unit of 109, and then also, once it deploys, you can actually set the number for that actual unit, meaning that you can increase it or decrease it so the max strength will be this or that. To change that, just left click on the number next to the fighter, and then you can increase it with the slider. You can either click on it or just drag it, or shift click for units of 10. Again, you can set it to 200. Now we set the limit to 200, so eventually, once our factories catch up on air losses, this unit will be made of a strength of 200 of our most modern fighter. Now, another reason why air superiority is very important is when you actually have ground battles, your air superiority will come into account with attacking other units, as well as enemy units attacking you. If you lack your air superiority in the region, you could have some major debuffs on your ground troops. If we click on this battle, we can see on here underneath the enemy's area is that we have air superiority in the region. Now, what this debuff does is different for different tech trees and tech levels in the battle plans, but you can see right here with the amount of bombers I have overhead, it gives us an enemy air superiority rating of a negative 51% to his defense value. So we've now modified it even with his terrain and his country, his commander skill. We've reduced it to about 80% of the original. So his original would be 112 and we reduced it down to 90.3. And this is very important because it will give you that little added touch or that added benefit in the ground warfare. And your bombers also will eventually take a really heavy toll on the enemy units, taking out those tanks, taking out those artillery units, and will help you even further your military goals on the ground warfare. Eventually, when you're advancing during the air war, you might come across this air wings with no mission. All you have to do is click on it, and it will show you that, hey, you have aircraft over here that are standing by. Just select it and then right click on the target area that you want to actually move the aircraft into. Now, once they actually move into there, you still need to select their actual missions that they will be performing, and also make sure that you take off the no retreat function. If you notice that you have aircraft here that are not doing anything like this close air support, you can take that one unit by left clicking on it and then right clicking on the area that you want to move it to. When you hear that little clink like it's a sword hitting metal, all you have to do is now rebase it. So we can see that this has a unit strength of 200. We need to find an aircraft or airport that does not have 200 airplanes in it and also somewhat in range of this area. So we can move it to maybe this airport, which has a capacity of 1,400, but only has 122 aircraft. Once we rebase that aircraft, it's going to move to here. And now we can select the same aircraft because it's still going to be assigned to this northern France. And now right click on it and you'll hear that little propeller sound in the background. Now you've effectively moved that aircraft over to this region. And now it will actually help perform that action over here. Having your close air support, your tactical bombers, and as well as your naval bombers on naval bombing and port bombing is really where it pays off. As you can see, I have 600 different aircraft that attacked this little fleet, but it's one destroyer, and one destroyer represents a lot of IC, a lot of industrial capacity, and you're taking months away of production. And it's very good to take out these ships, and the destroyers are small, but when you see that your aircraft takes down a battleship or it takes down a carrier, it will make your day and make you very happy. Now, finally, there's a lot of debuffs and as well as buffs that go into this air war. In each sector, we can see that right now here, we can see that it's night, and also bad weather is at 0%. So there's no bad weather, but night is reducing our mission effectiveness by 19.9%. Now, different technologies as well as the doctrines can help increase this or decrease that debuff, but you're going to have issues nonetheless. Like there's one doctrine that will increase your bombing during nights or for night raids, so then you can move all your strategic bombers over to night raids only, and you'll take hopefully less losses, and you know, at least do some more damage comparative to day bombing, which is better in a sense of how much damage you can do, but then enemy bombers or fighters can actually detect you faster. So there's a lot of debuffs, and this is where it just gets really technical, because all these debuffs, like this is a weather modifier because it's a storm, there's sandstorms, and to trying to pay attention to this as well as pay attention to the guys on the ground, this is where you really need that really slow progression of time. But there's a lot of stuff. Like we can see here that the storm is going to give us a negative 20% on detection, increases our accident rates, decreases our ground bombing, as well as our air mission effectiveness. So that's a lot of debuffs. So really, it's not worth even flying in that region during that time period. So right now you can see that we have no aircraft over here. We have there are only 122 fighters left here, so this is no enemy fighters, so we can select these. We'll move them over to here, which they don't have much over here either, but hopefully we'll, you know, destroy them and take them out, and then kind of push back these fighters, so in the sense, and bombers in the sense, so we can actually win this air war. And how you win air wars is really just with attrition. Just like anything else, you're winning by attrition. You're taking out their capacity to produce more fighters. We saw earlier that they had about 1,800 fighters up, even more, but we can see right here over the course of just this video, we've lost 1,000 fighters, we've lost 374 bombers and 380 close air support. We can see that they disrupted a lot of our bombing missions as well, but look at this, enemy fighters lost 3,073. That is massive right there. That's just this area, 3,073. So right there, we've already done 2 versus 1. So we've killed 2 aircraft for every 1 aircraft that we lost. And so we are winning this war of attrition over the English Channel. And the Battle of Britain has started, and we are winning. The air war in Hearts of Iron 4 is a very complex and important aspect of the game, and you cannot ignore it for very long. If you do, your troops will get bogged down on the front lines, taking heavy casualties and eventually pushed back. Your navies will take losses inside the ports without ever leaving to engage an enemy fleet, and then your coastline will be open for attack. So make sure that you invest early and heavily into your air force, because the air war will eventually happen and attrition will be high. So plan for the air war, take the initiative, and take control of the skies. If this has helped you out in any way, please hit that thumbs up. It means a lot to me and greatly helps out my channel. And as always, I'm the Flying Ross, and I'll check you guys next time.